Did you know that one prophet dared to stand alone and speak the truth when 400 others were delivering lies? His name was Micaiah, and his fearless stand before King Ahab is one of the most dramatic stories in the Bible. It's a tale of courage, integrity, and unwavering commitment to God's truth, even in the face of overwhelming pressure. Stay with me as we dive into the powerful story of Micaiah from 1 Kings 22. You don't want to miss this. Our story begins with two kings, Ahab, the wicked king of Israel, and Jehoshaphat, the godly king of Judah. Despite their differences, these two rulers formed an alliance. Ahab wanted Jehoshaphat to join him in a battle to reclaim Ramoth-Gilead from the Arameans. Jehoshaphat, being a man of faith, had one condition. First, seek the counsel of the Lord. Ahab agreed and called together 400 prophets. These prophets, however, were not true messengers of God. They were yes-men, eager to tell Ahab whatever he wanted to hear. When asked whether they should go to war, the 400 prophets unanimously declared, "Go, for the Lord will give it into the king's hand." But Jehoshaphat wasn't convinced. He asked, "Is there no longer a prophet of the Lord here, whom we can inquire of?" Ahab reluctantly admitted, "There is still one prophet through whom we can inquire of the Lord, but I hate him because he never prophesies anything good about me, but always bad. He is Micaiah son of Imlah." Despite Ahab's dislike for him, Micaiah was summoned. Before he arrived, a messenger warned him, "Look, the other prophets are all predicting success for the king. Let your word agree with theirs and speak favorably." But Micaiah's response was legendary. "As surely as the Lord lives, I can tell him only what the Lord tells me." When Micaiah stood before Ahab, he initially mocked the false prophets by sarcastically saying, "Attack and be victorious, for the Lord will give it into the king's hand." Ahab, realizing Micaiah was being sarcastic, demanded the truth. Micaiah then delivered a chilling prophecy. "I saw all Israel scattered on the hills, like sheep without a shepherd. And the Lord said, 'These people have no master. Let each one go home in peace.'" In other words, Ahab would not return from the battle alive. To make matters worse for Ahab, Micaiah revealed a vision of heaven that explained why the 400 prophets were unanimously declaring victory. In his vision, Micaiah saw the Lord seated on his throne, surrounded by heavenly beings. The Lord asked, "Who will entice Ahab into attacking Ramoth-Gilead and going to his death there?" One spirit volunteered and said, "I will go and be a deceiving spirit in the mouths of all his prophets." The Lord allowed it, and that's why the 400 prophets were united in their false prophecy. This revelation enraged Ahab, but Micaiah's words were clear. "The Lord has decreed disaster for you." For his boldness, Micaiah faced harsh consequences. Ahab ordered him to be thrown into prison, fed only bread and water, until he returned safely from battle. But Micaiah's final words were defiant. "If you ever return safely, the Lord has not spoken through me." King Ahab's death in battle is a gripping conclusion that vividly demonstrates how God's word always comes to pass, no matter the schemes of men. Let's delve deeper into the dramatic and prophetic details of Ahab's final moments as described in 1 Kings 22 verses 29 to 40. After hearing Micaiah's prophecy about his impending doom, Ahab devised a plan to protect himself. He decided to disguise himself in battle, thinking that if he didn't look like a king, he wouldn't be a target. He told Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, to wear his royal robes while he went into battle in plain armor. This cunning move showed Ahab's desperate attempt to outsmart the prophecy. But God's plans cannot be thwarted. The Aramean king had specifically commanded his chariot officers to focus only on killing the king of Israel. When they saw Jehoshaphat in his royal robes, they assumed he was Ahab and surrounded him. In a moment of panic, Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord intervened to save him. Realizing he wasn't Ahab, the Aramean soldiers turned away. Meanwhile, Ahab thought he had escaped danger, hidden among the soldiers. But then came the moment of divine fulfillment. A seemingly random soldier, whose name isn't even mentioned, fired an arrow into the air. The arrow wasn't aimed at Ahab, nor was it directed by human hands. It was guided by God himself. The arrow struck Ahab in the tiny gap between the plates of his armor, a spot no human could have deliberately targeted. The hit was fatal. Wounded and bleeding, Ahab slumped in his chariot. Despite his injury, Ahab ordered his chariot driver to prop him up so he could watch the battle unfold. His pride and defiance lingered even as his life ebbed away. Blood flowed from his wound, pooling in the bottom of the chariot. By sunset, Ahab was dead. The Israelites, leaderless and defeated, retreated to their homes, just as Micaiah had prophesied. Ahab's body was taken back to Samaria, where he was buried. But the story doesn't end there. His blood-soaked chariot was washed out at a pool in Samaria, and dogs licked up his blood, fulfilling yet another prophecy from Elijah. 1 Kings 21 verse 19. Elijah had warned Ahab earlier, after his wicked act of seizing Naboth's vineyard, that dogs would lick his blood in the same place where Naboth was killed. Even in death, God's judgment against Ahab was complete and precise. The story of Micaiah teaches us several powerful lessons. 1. Truth requires courage. Micaiah stood alone against 400 false prophets, knowing his words could cost him everything. 2. Integrity is priceless. He refused to compromise or sugarcoat God's message, even when pressured to conform. 3. God's word never fails. Despite Ahab's attempts to outmaneuver the prophecy, God's will was fulfilled exactly as Micaiah said. Micaiah's story challenges us to ask, are we willing to stand for truth, even when it's unpopular? In a world filled with voices vying for attention, will we be bold enough to speak what God says, no matter the cost? If this story inspired you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful Bible stories. Leave a comment below. What do you think gave Micaiah the strength to stand alone? Remember, truth is never easy, but it's always worth it. See you in the next video.